So this is Chapter 2. May 1947, Elizabeth, New Jersey. Sally had a scab on her knee from falling off her bicycle last week. It itched. She scratched the area around it, knowing that the scab wasn't ready to come off yet. She was sitting on the high-backed chair near the fireplace, and her feet didn't quite reach the floor. She wished they would. "Little pitchers have big ears," Uncle Jack said, with a nod in her direction. On the far side of the living room, Mom, Ma Fanny, Aunt Betty, and Uncle Jack were huddled together. They spoke in hushed voices so that Sally could make out only a few words. "God forbid, keep your fingers crossed. Never should have gone there." They would talk about Douglas. Something had happened to him. Sally wasn't sure exactly what, but Daddy was at the hospital now with Douglas, and Mom was waiting impatiently for the phone to ring with news about him. Sally ran her hands along the arms of the chair. It was covered in pink and green flowered material, shiny and almost new. The whole living room was pink and green, although Mom didn't say pink. She said rose beige. It was a beautiful room, soft and peaceful. Sally loved it. She wished they used it every day and not just on special occasions. One Sunday, her father built a fire in the brick fireplace, and he and Sally and Douglas sat around on the floor reading the funnies. But Mom said it made a mess, so they'd had no more log fires. On the other side of the fireplace, bookcases climbed to the ceiling, and between them, over the fireplace, was a large mirror reflecting the rest of the room. Something had to be very wrong with Douglas. Otherwise, why were they sitting in the living room tonight? "Stop picking, Sally," Mom said. "You'll only make it worse." Sally took her hand away from her knee. She twirled a strand of hair around her finger and yawned. "Why don't you go up to bed?" Mom asked. "Look how tired you are." "I'm not tired." "Don't give me a hard time," Mom snapped. "Just go on up." Aunt Betty touched Mom's shoulder, then walked over to Sally. "Come on," she said. "I'll keep you company while you get ready." They went upstairs to Sally's room. Aunt Betty flopped across the bed. She was Mom's younger sister. She taught 4th grade, and sometimes she brought marbles to Sally and Douglas, marbles that had wound up in her treasure chest because someone in her class had been fooling around with them instead of paying attention. And once a marble found its way into Aunt Betty's treasure chest, the owner could kiss it goodbye. That's why Douglas and Sally had such great marble collections. Sally's favorite was clear green all over. "Mom's mad at me," Sally said, "and I didn't do anything." "She's not mad," Aunt Betty said. "She's worried about Douglas, that's all." "She acted mad. She didn't have to holler." "Try to understand. What's the matter with Douglas anyway?" "He's had an accident." Sally knew that. She'd been outside tossing her pink Spalding ball against the side of the house when 2 boys carried Douglas to the back door. There'd been a big commotion then, and Sally was sure of just one thing. Douglas was crying. She had been surprised about that. "They were playing in Union Woods," Aunt Betty said, "and Douglas tried to jump across the brook, but he lost his balance and fell, and when he did, he dislocated his elbow." "We're not supposed to play in Union Woods," Sally said. "There was a strange man who hung out in there. Last month, the principal of Sally's school had sent a notice to each classroom warning the kids not to go into Union Woods anymore. That afternoon, Sally had asked Douglas, 'Do you know about the strange man in Union Woods?' And Douglas had answered, 'Sure.' 'What kind of strange man is he?' Sally said. 'What do you mean?' Douglas asked. 'Is he a murderer or a kidnapper or what?' 'He's just strange,' Douglas told her. 'What does that mean?' 'You know.' 'No, I don't.' 'Well, he's kind of crazy,' Douglas said. 'Oh, crazy.' Sally thought about that for a minute. 'Crazy how?' 'In general,' Douglas said. 'But what does that mean?' 'I don't have time to explain now. I'm busy.' And before Sally could ask another question, Douglas had run downstairs to his basement workshop and shut the door. Sally supposed Douglas and his friends weren't afraid to go into Union Woods because they were older. They were 13 and went to junior high. "Is it bad to dislocate your elbow?" Sally asked Aunt Betty. "It's like breaking your arm. He'll have a cast when he comes home from the hospital." "Like Suzanne Beardsley?" I don't know her. She's in my class. She broke her wrist taking out the milk bottles, and she had a cast for 2 months, and we all signed our names on it. I'm sure Douglas will let you sign your name on his cast too. Now brush your teeth and hop into bed. It's past 10. Can I listen to my radio? Okay, but just for a little while. Sally got ready for bed. Her mother came up to kiss her good night. Didn't mean to scold you, she said. It's just that... I know, Sally said. You're worried about Douglas. Well, yes, waiting is very hard. I should have gone to the hospital too. Will Douglas be home soon? I hope so. Daddy's going to call as soon as his arm is reset. Reset? Yes, to get the elbow back in place. Oh. Good night. Sleep tight. Mom bent over to kiss her cheek, and Sally could smell the pot roast they'd had for dinner on her hands. Night, Mom. Sally closed her eyes, but she couldn't fall asleep. Even her radio didn't help, so after a while she reached over and turned it off. Then she arranged her covers in just the right way with both her hands tucked inside, and she closed her eyes again, but still sleep wouldn't come. So she made up a story inside her head. Sally meets the stranger. Sally is walking in Union Woods, picking flowers and humming a tune. She's wearing a long, yellow organdy dress and a picture hat to match. Her hair is blowing in the breeze. Suddenly she is aware of someone following her. She spins around and comes face to face with a strange man. He has a long, shaggy grey beard and a foolish smile on his face. Saliva trickles out of the corner of his mouth. His clothes are tattered, and his bare feet are crusted with dirt. "Oh!" Sally exclaims, and she drops her flowers. The strange man makes terrible noises, and Sally tries to run, but finds she can't. Her feet won't move. The strange man comes closer and closer. Sally takes off her hat and swats his face with it, but since it is made of organdy, it doesn't do any good. He scoops her up and carries her deep into Union Woods. "You're going to be very sorry," Sally tells him, as he prepares to tie her to a tree. He answers, then laughs, as he winds the rope tighter and tighter around Sally's small body. But he is so strange, he forgets to tie the two ends of the rope together, and as soon as he goes back to his hut, Sally wriggles free and runs. She doesn't stop until she reaches police headquarters, where she tells her story to the chief of police himself. Then she leads him and 2 of his assistants to the strange man's hut. The strange man is captured at last. Never again will he be able to tie a girl to a tree. The chief of police is so impressed that he makes Sally his #1 detective, specializing in strange cases. A Hollywood producer decides to make a movie of Sally's story, but he can't find the right 10-year-old girl to play the lead. He decides he must have Sally herself, and that is how Sally gets to be not only a famous detective, but also a movie star. Sounds just like one of my fantasies. Sometime that night, Douglas came home from the hospital. Sally woke to her parents' voices. Mom cried, "His clothes are wet. My God, Arnold, he's soaked right through." "From the brook, Dad," he said. "He fell into the brook, remember? But the hospital," Mom said. "How could they have left him in those wet clothes for so long? He'll get pneumonia or something." "I knew I should have gone too."